Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Daniel Dubois and Gerald Washington have entered the IBF rankings in the latest update, and Oscar Rivas, well, he's fallen out altogether following his loss against Dillian Whyte on July 20th. And it's not the first rankings body that Oscar Rivas has fallen foul of, being dumped from the WBA also. So this is 2 for 2. He had been ranked across all 4 sanctioning bodies. The others are still to update their rankings, so Rivas, he could be down and out. And obviously the cloud surrounding that fight with Dillian Whyte, with that whole suspicion of performance-enhancing drugs around Whyte, having to front a panel ahead of that fight and Rivas never knowing about it, well, we'll have to see what happens there, because I think Oscar Rivas and his team will be looking to do everything within their power, depending on the results of the B sample and whatever happens from an investigation by the British Boxing Board of Control / UKAD. We'll have to see where that goes. But starting at the top of the top 15, we have Pulev, the IBF mandatory challenger. And interestingly, he's been trying to make moves in recent weeks, petitioning the IBF to bring forward his title challenge. He had been, as according to the IBF, behind the WBO mandatory in the rotation, but Pulev, his co-promoters Bob Arum, as well as Ivano Gotsev and John Wirt of Epic Sports and Entertainment, they want the IBF to actually bring forward his shot. So we're going to have to see what happens there, because to me it feels like it's more about PR rather than actually something that could be forced by Pulev and his team. But obviously he's approaching 40 now, and he'll know that, his chances of winning a heavyweight title probably decrease by the day. The older he gets, he's not going to get any better. And if he is stuck where he is, which is behind the WBO mandatory, could be the best part of a year before he gets his title shot. Because remember, Ruiz and Joshua are having their rematch, and then it would be the WBO mandatory. So I guess Pulev wants to see if he can force the issue and maybe get someone stripped at some point. Yeah, I don't know if it's really going to work, but at number 2, not rated, the customary not rated. Number 3, this month we have a change. Adam Kovnatsky, who beat Chris Arreola in a slugfest on August the 3rd. He is up 1 place, leapfrogging Ajit Kabial, who falls to 4. So Kovnatsky, he is actually well rated in a couple of sanctioning bodies now. So he obviously is trying to build towards a heavyweight world title shot, and like sort of Pulev as well. For the moment, he's being forced to wait. He did think that maybe he had a shot against Deontay Wilder sooner rather than later, but it's going to be later now with Deontay Wilder booked up with Luis Ortiz and then potentially Tyson Fury. We'll have to see where things go, but Adam Kovnatsky is well positioned if and when he is called up for his shot. Ajit Kabial, he is the EBU title holder. His mandatory is Joe Joyce, so maybe we will see that fight made soon. Kabial, he's actually been relatively inactive the past couple of years, only had a couple of fights since he beat Derek Chisora, and he's a very good talent, and it would be interesting to see him in a fight with Joe Joyce, because stylistically that could give Joyce some trouble. But obviously Joyce is sort of his come forward, seek and destroy, clubbing punch style. Could be something that Ajit Kabial may struggle with. It remains to be seen, but I do like that fight if they can get that made. Apparently it is going to a purse bid. Anthony Joshua is up 1 spot this month, and that's because Robert Helenius, who had been at number 5, is dropped from the IBF rankings altogether. He was beaten by Gerald Washington in July, and Helenius ruthlessly out of the top 15 altogether. The IBF is pretty savage in that regard. So Joshua is the beneficiary there, up 1 spot, as is Tyson Fury, who is at number 6 this month. He is set to face Otto Wallin, according to reports. And yeah, I'm not so jazzed about that fight, because I think Fury could have been doing a little bit better, and it makes me wonder about the rematch with Deontay Wilder. Should they get that made? Is Tyson Fury doing enough on his end to try build that up by facing who most fans would consider credible opponents? And don't get me wrong, Otto Wallin is a good fighter. He's undefeated right now, but this is levels above where he's fought. He hasn't gone through those necessary steps through the prospect and fringe contender phase that you would want to have before facing a Tyson Fury. So I mean, I know that there are some Tyson Fury fans who are defending this to the hilt, but To some extent, this is a cherry pick by Tyson Fury. It's not the worst fight in the world, and I definitely believe it's better than the Tom Schwarz one, but the result will be the same. And Fury won't get a lot of credit if he beats Otto Wallin, even in spectacular fashion, because most people weren't calling for that fight, people weren't clamoring for that fight, and it's hard for me to see how that does much to build his profile in the United States, let alone for the rebuild, where they've talked about wanting to sell 2 million pay-per-views. How do you get to that number facing the likes of Tom Schwarz and Otto Wallin, non-American fighters, facing them in America? There were only 5,500 seats sold for the last fight against Schwarz. So if they have this next fight in New York and it's similar numbers, I mean, what does that tell you about Tyson Fury's pulling power? Probably not a lot, and I think he needed to do better in terms of an opponent for this fight, the second fight of his co-promotional deal with ESPN and Top Rank. And I don't begrudge him in terms of, collecting the checks, because obviously good for him, getting multi-million dollar paydays against guys that really he should be beating all day and every day and twice on Sundays. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they spin this once it's officially and formally announced Tyson Fury versus Otto Wallin. At number 7, we have Sergey Kuzmin, who was up 3 places this month. He had been at number 10. He hasn't been fighting, so I'm not sure why he's gone up 3 spots. He is due to face Michael Hunter coming up, and Michael Hunter is further down these rankings. So a lot on the line for Kuzmin and Hunter. Hunter has a few rankings across the board, and I'll get to him in a moment. So obviously they would be both positioning themselves well with a win over each other. At number 8, a new entrant into the IBF rankings, replacing effectively Robert Helenius, who was dumped out. Gerald Washington, who had no ranking, comes in. So he's at number 8 after that pretty spectacular knockout win over Robert Helenius. Good highlight reel knockout. Number 9, we have Luis Ortiz, who holds firm. At number 10, we have Michael Hunter. He's up a couple of places this month. As I mentioned, he's facing Sergey Kuzmin, and this is a good fight for both. They both need each other in terms of that to take that next step within the division. Hunter, for me, has struggled to really gain some of the credibility within the heavyweight division because he's a former cruiserweight. So he is having to work hard to, get fans to really believe he is a viable threat and contender in the heavyweight division. And beating someone like Sergey Kuzmin, who's, a fringe contender, that will do it. That's the step he needed and the name that he needs on his resume to take that next step to help him get those bigger fights. At number 11, holding firm is Otto Wallin. As I said, he is due to face Tyson Fury, or this is what has been reported and confirmed by a number of sources. Number 12, Filip Hrgovic. He's up 1 spot this month. 13, up 2 places from 15 last month, is Hughie Fury. So Fury has just signed on with Matchroom. He's going to be having a fight coming up against Alexander Povetkin, and really that is a pretty big introduction, joining a new promotional stable, fighting a top 10 heavyweight. Number 14, holding firm, is Joseph Parker. And at 15, a new entrant to the IBF top 15 this month is Daniel Dubois. He is facing Ebenezer Tete coming up in September. It really is what it is in terms of it being a mismatch, but the Commonwealth title is on the line, so it probably will be sort of, 1 round, 2 round sort of thing, complete mismatch. Tete has no hope in that. But Dubois here entering the IBF, I believe for the first time. It's his second ranking. He's got a decent ranking, about 9th or 10th in the WBO. So yeah, Daniel Dubois starting to, make his presence known in the heavyweight division. I'm sure if he can keep winning in the next couple of years, he will get a title shot. Frank Warren is bringing him along, I think, at a pretty good pace. I know some want to see him really pushed a bit quicker, but he is pretty green, pretty young, 21 years old. He does need, for me at least, a little bit more seasoning. I mean, maybe Tete is a bit of a step down from where he should have been, but it's, for a vacant title, I can live with that. He's only 21. He's only got 12 fights on his ledger. It's not the greatest fight in the world. Certainly, it's far from that, but I can live with it. If he was to take, multiple opposition like Tete, I think I would have a problem, but if it's a one-off and then to a better caliber of opponent, well, I can certainly live with it. What do you make of it all? Gerald Washington enters the rankings at number 8. Daniel Dubois joins him as another new entrant at 15. Oscar Rivas and Robert Helenius ruthlessly dumped from the top 15. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.